Welcome to No Ideas Original Podcast featuring Shyheim, Mr. Rob, and Zane, soon to be here.
Where you at, Zane? Bring your ass, boy.
Happy holidays, everybody. We're not live. We're not live today, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you some entertainment for Christmas and New Year. So we have a best of No Ideas Original Podcast show.
Believe it or not, we have reached almost our 50th show. Actually, this will be our 50th show. Wow.
Yeah.
7 months, 50 shows. We putting in some work, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I have to say, like, even when I was putting in work, like, it was even just going through the clips and everything I was saying, I was like, man, like, we got a pretty extensive catalog. You know, there are a couple of people, though, that I do want to highlight that, you know, that we got to give props to. So I'm just thinking Prince 914 and Nashe and Co. Anytime you see us with any kind of No Ideas Original merch on, that's where it's come from. That's you know, our theme song is by Straight Bangers. They the ones who created the theme song for us. Real Edible Treats has been down with us for a minute. Of course, Nellz Kitchen. You know, and the very first person who stepped up and sponsored and sent us something, you know who that was, Rob? Remember?
Was it Body Butter?
Brothers Body Balm.
Brothers Body Balm was our first endorsement, yo.
Yeah, Brothers Body Balm. He stamped us, yo, when we was first getting started, before we was even on video.
Yo, and that was dope, son. And his product was good. I mean,
yeah. Showed us love. So salute to Brothers Body Balm. But yo, as I was going through the clips, and looking at the stuff, I was like, damn, like, yo, we had a lot of dope conversations, man. We went from DJs to rappers to elders
to artists,
boxers,
to educators,
entrepreneurs,
health nuts.
Yeah.
We covered all sorts of bases, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the first clip we want to get into is for episode number 9. It was with Ron G. And I have to say, like, this was, I think, this was like our first video, right? First video interview. And for me, I enjoyed it because I grew up listening to Ron G, boy. And no matter what people say, don't let them lie to you. Ron G had the mixtape game on lock with his mixtapes. Ron G was the mix king. His blends were on fire. Everywhere you went, they was in every cab.
Mixtape king, son. Either him or Kid Capri. But you can hear that Ron G. Anywhere you went, you heard that, man. Shout out to Ron G, man. He gave us a dope story too.
He definitely did. You know what? We're gonna go to the clip where he talks about how he met Fat Joe.
Let me ask you this. I'm always curious about like the inner work. I'm a process oriented dude, so I always want to know like the inner workings of how these things work, right? So I always wonder for DJs that were putting out their mixtapes, how did the business element of it work? Like, did you give the people your tape to sell and you got a piece or whatever they sold, or did you sell them like a master and they could make as many copies as they wanted to?
Well, when I first was starting, it was more promotion. It was more like you got to get your name out there. You know what I mean? Right. I always tell people, my goal was to use the hustlers as my fan base, because what I did was I would tell the hustlers, look, you want a shout out? You know, throw me a little something. You know what I mean? Like, because they all wanted to be famous like we were, like DJs. They were like, yo, I want my shorty, when she hear your mixtape, she want to hear that me and you my man, son. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Make sure I'm all right. And then that got around. Then, you know, sometimes you have to give them out, certain places you go. And that kind of built me a fan base. You know what I mean? That helped me get a fan base, you know. And then the Africans, salute a lot of the Africans and my brothers, like Abraham, a lot of Africans on Canal Street, Jamaica, Queens. They would duplicate them joints, you know, to the T. They made millions and brought houses in Senegal and all that.
That's crazy. They did too.
You're the best. I love you. You're the best.
Absolutely, son.
And they've helped me. They helped me, you know, kind of like brand myself, because they took my mixtapes everywhere. I did too, but they took it a whole lot further than I did.
That's real.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one question. What's the biggest crowd, the livest crowd you ever robbed?
I would say the biggest crowds when I DJ'd at the Garden with Fat Joe. Shout to the homie Fat Joe. Rest in peace, Big. You know what I mean? Fat Joe is my brother right there. I love him, man. Shout to Khaled. You know, it was a time before I did We Thuggin'. It was a way before then, when Joe first came out with Flow Joe. Right. Like, I always now this is something that I always would tell. I always what I don't really talk about it too much, but I always say like how I met Fat Joe was we had just came from seeing the movie New Jack City, right? And they used to have a carnival on 161st Street back in them days, right? And one day I was driving and I accidentally hit Fat Joe's truck slightly. Oh, and I didn't know who this dude was. I was scared, man. Fat Joe jumped out the truck. He was like, yo. When I said, oh, Fat Joe, yo, I didn't know who he was. So I was like, yo, my bad. He was like, yo. I was like, yo, you know, we had like a slight little conversation. He was like, yo, what you do? And I was like, yo, I'm a DJ. I was like, yo, I'm Ron G. He was like, Ron G? Ron G? And that was our introduction. And he was like, yo, we kind of like built from there. And I'm telling you, for those who know Fat Joe, you know, Fat Joe never played any games. And for you to tap the back of his truck and he ain't do nothing to you.
Yeah. He was in the trunk or he was asleep, right?
I'm telling you, shout out to Fat Joe. But you know what? I started hanging around Fat Joe for a minute. And shout to you know, the whole Terror Squad. And what Joe did was he gave me my first opportunity to DJ with him at Madison Square Garden. It had to be at least 40,000 people that day. And he did Flow Joe. He was like, you got to Flow Joe. And what my job was to do was to like kind of like hype the crowd up before he did actual Flow Joe. And it was a moment that I will never forget. At the Garden, I've never been in the Garden again.
Right, that's home base right there for you, man.
I have never touched the Madison Square Garden again, but that was my first time, and I'm old after Fat Joe.
Wow, big shout out to Fat Joe.
40,000 strong.
Yeah.
How about that?
Let me ask you this: so the mixtape game sort of transition, you know, and we should say also rest in peace to Love Bugstar Ski, right?
Yeah,
but
rest in peace.
The mixtape game transition, like it went from, you know, the Kid Capri tapes to you having it with the blends. Then it seemed like from a consumer standpoint that mixing altogether was just out the gate. Like forget a mix, whoever got the new record. That's what it is. That's what it's about. You know, what was your response to that? What did you think about that?
Well, I always thought that, I always say this when people ask that question. I say what happened was the hip hop community was nosy. And the reason why I said they were nosy is because they could not wait for the song to come out. Right. That changed the game. You know, when I was doing the mixtapes, it wasn't about the new song. It's about your creativity with the song you have. You know, but then when the hip hop community was like, yo, I want that record first. I want to go be able to tell my boy I had this first. I want to be able to tell my people I heard this on the radio first. That changed the game. You see what I'm saying? So certain DJs started saying, look, I got this first. I wasn't really into that because I didn't want no beef with no rappers. I didn't want no beef with no celebrities. I just said, I'm going to just stay creative on my craft. But other DJs were able to take advantage of that because they would become friends with the engineers, or the engineers were their homeboys, and or stupid people, or they had some money they was giving people to get these songs. But that's what happened. It changed the game.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, man.
The showmanship and the skills kind of declined as a result of it, right?
Yeah, all together, the whole circle changed because people was like, yo, I want this first, you know? And I think to me personally, that was a business move because if you were able to get a song before it came.
You remember Ron G's calling card? Ron G!
Yeah.
I love Ron G because Ron G stay in character too.
All the time, baby. real good dude, man. He was down to earth. I liked him, man. It was almost like just like how we always kicking into somebody. He came over, he sat down with us, and just hung out. Yeah,
it was definitely a good build. Then we went from Ron G to episode number 10. Right off top, you got to know what episode 10 is. You better get this right.
Episode 10 was the illustrious my wife, Nellz Kitchen, and she brought an exemplary,
a lovely spread.
A lovely spread. The presentation was nice. We talked about eating habits and healthy habits. My wife is a chef, and she's been putting things together for so long. We have Nellz Kitchen, a small catering company, and we brought her on so we could promote her and put her out there. So it was a nice show though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely a good spread. The food was on point. The conversation was good. We had that conversation where she was talking about budgeting, and then I was telling y'all about the terminology we use in my house, the meal and the meal.
Yeah. The meal. Is that a meal? It's not a meal.
Is that a meal or is a meal? Everybody at some point you done had a meal, but have you had a meal?
Have a meal. I mean, with some starch, vegetables. I mean, a biscuit on the side. That's a meal.
Let's go to Nell's kitchen right now.
Mail sits there now. So there's mail, your hat, your keys, your phone, everything but a plate and some food. It's crazy, man.
It really is. So, when I'm thinking of all of these things and saying that, the chef part of it is sharing it. Right. It's sharing it and bringing to another household or bringing to another occasion that feeling of home, that feeling of comfort, that feeling that it does not have to come from a name that has a commercial running on the television. You can really and truly. And then when I have conversations with people, they're like, how do you know so much about food? How do you not know so much about it? You're eating it all the time. Don't you want to know what you're eating and what it does?
Message.
And how it does, the things that it's doing, and what's affecting you and what's not. Like I said, we're the ones suffering from high blood pressure. Put the salt down. And the sodium is not just in the salt. It's in the preservatives. It's in the fried, the grease, all of those things that, again, are so accessible to us and taste so good. We want to eat it all the time, but you can make it. I'm not a fan of the air fryer. Let me just put that
I'm going to ask you about that later.
I'm not a fan of the air fryer, but a lot of people have now kind of gone to this idea that because they're air frying it, that makes my fried food healthy. How come? Are you still salting it and battering it and putting all the stuff on before you put it in the air fryer? It's in the ingredients of what the air fryer all is doing is cooking it. You still have to control what's actually going into it.
What do you think about people, like, in terms of the healthy options? There are people I've heard before say, well, the reason why I don't eat healthy is the cost that's associated with eating healthy. I mean, a lot of people believe that they could go to McDonald's and go on the dollar menu and get a meal and be like, done, here's a meal for somebody. Versus going into a Whole Foods or something like that and dropping that bag to actually
or even going into their pantry and seeing what they got in their pantry.
But and this is where, people do your due diligence and just understand what it is that you're eating to begin with. How is it that I can walk into a franchise and get 20 pieces of chicken for $1, but I walk into the supermarket and I can't buy one chicken drumstick for that same $1? How are they equating that? Because they're still in it to make money as well. So what are you taking away from yourself by eating on this, assumed budget? No. You go into a supermarket, there's different ways to do it. I have a large family. I don't think there is any single one person in my family that doesn't eat a lot. But just because they're eating a lot, it doesn't mean that it has to be bad what they're eating. You do, when you go shopping, look at the products, look at the cost per pound. A lot of people don't even pay attention to the cost per pound. That's why there's a difference between a $20 pack of chicken and maybe a $10 pack of chicken. What's the cost per pound? What's the company? Whole Foods, they push this idea of everything is organic. Everything is organic, and because it's organic, it costs more. Well, that bell pepper that I bought at Whole Foods and the bell pepper that I bought at ShopRite, it cooked the same exact way. It tasted the same way, but yet the Whole Foods one was 3 times as much money. So it's the brand, it's the name on the packaging. If you look at the top companies that own all of these smaller companies, they will tell you themselves, we repackage the same exact thing depending on which store it's going into. So the ShopRite brand is the Stop and Shop brand, is the C-Town brand, is the Pioneer brand. But they're just packaging it for that distributor. So I would say there's no such thing as I can't afford to eat healthy. Why not? Because if you're going to spend $5, look at what you need to buy. Spend your $5 the best way. I never go shopping without first planning my shop. Because if I know I need to get oil and vegetables and fruit and everything else, I make myself a list I know what it is that I'm going out there to get, and I don't go out there with just my pocketbook open. I say, all right, this stuff should cost me around it, because again, I'm paying attention to what I'm buying. I'm paying attention to sales. There's nothing wrong with a sale.
Nothing wrong with coupons.
There is nothing wrong with coupons.
A sale is needed.
The sale is needed.
because if they can sell it to you on sale for that price, why can't they sell it to you for that price all the time?
Then coming off of Nell's Kitchen, we had episode 11, which was another one that I think was near and dear. And I see a pattern because we kind of kept it close to family. You know, it was family, friends, Bronx, Boston Road. You know what episode 11 was off the top? Can you remember?
Was it Straight Bangers?
Straight Bangers, like I said earlier. Straight Bangers produced the theme song for No Ideas original podcast.
That's right. Shout out to Rice. Shout out to Pat.
Rice and Pat. Yeah. And what I loved about this episode also was it was like the first time that we ever tried to pull anything like that off. I think it was like a virtual listening party. And we had some of the artists that actually appeared on their 20 for 20 project. Come on and participate.
People came through and hung out, man. We had a good time that night. I mean, that was a good showing right there.
Yeah, and it was cool too because, like I said, like knowing them for mad long now, knowing them.
I raised them boys.
That's what I'm saying. You probably know them 30 plus years.
30 plus, man, both of them.
I knew them. I want to say I knew them probably like 20 plus years, and seeing their progression as his people and producers. You know,
if Rice was on here, I would tell Rice that we was just on the phone with my boy Nasty and Spud, and we were talking about when we used to wrestle in the park. And we used to put the swings on the pole and wrestle on the mat, son. We had belts, all that shit, son. It was crazy.
Yo, you know what the crazy thing is? I thought that we only did that in our hood, because in our hood, we used to go in the backyard of our building. We ain't had no mats. We had to wrestle on grass.
WWF everywhere, man, or WWE, or I don't know. It's crazy.
Here's the real question: were your belts made of tinfoil?
Tinfoil and cardboard. That's it. Tinfoil and cardboard. Shout out to Pat. Shout out to Nasty. Shout out to Spud. Good bro. Home team.
Straight Bangers.
Yes. Welcome everybody to episode number 11 of No Ideas Original, featuring Shalon and the good brother, Mr. Rob. What's up, Rob?
What's going on, King? How's everything with you, bro?
Blessed, man. Blessed. Yo, we got a special one today. Today we're joined by my peoples, Rice and Rachi, the Straight Bangers. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Yo, what up? Shalom, Master Rob. What's good,
man?
What's good with y'all, brothers? Rice, how you, son?
You on mute, Rice?
Get out of here.
Mute yourself, brother.
Mute yourself, brother.
I'm here.
Get it together over there.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Good to see you guys, man.
This is a special occasion because we're going to have our first virtual album listening party. So everybody that's in attendance and others that will be joining will have the opportunity to hear cuts off the 20 for 20 album that comes out June 1st.
Yo.
Right?
That's what's up.
So before we actually get into the songs off the album, we thought that we asked you guys a couple of questions just from a producer standpoint. So just wanted to start out by asking y'all, what made you get into production and when did you get into production?
I'll let Rice start off with that one.
I mean, I say like early 90s, I would say. About early 90s. Basically, I think it was a collection of things. My brother, he was into music before, so
right.
He was definitely doing some things, messing with P-Rock at the time, and just listening to some of the stuff that they would come back with. It definitely inspired me.
Shout out to Bugs.
Definitely. And me and Pat, we've been friends for so long. We kind of like did a lot together, not just working on music, but just like working in general, working at odd jobs. So, I mean, for the most part, I think it was from that initial stuff that my brother was doing, kind of like lit that spark. And we kind of like started from there with like a little, I can't remember, it was like a little Tascam sampler.
Yeah.
If I can remember, it was like a Tascam little sampler, one button sampler that probably sampled for a certain amount of time. And we started from there. I remember that was the beginning of it,
Right.
The funny thing about that sampler is that we went all the way, I think, to like Brooklyn one time, because I had gotten my brother to drive us, thinking that, you know, we were going to get all this equipment, all this beat making equipment. And I think we went all the way to Brooklyn looking for this sampler, and we ended up buying, I don't know if it was Tascam or whatever it was, but he's right. It was literally just a 1-button sampler. And at the time, we didn't know anything about making beats at all. Like there was no blueprint. You know what I mean? There was no YouTube that showed you, listen, this is how you put a beat together, this is how you sing. It was none of that. It was literally me and Rice in my crib with this box looking at it like how do we figure it out? And there was no one call up and be like, listen, can you come and show me how to use this or something like that? It was literally nothing at all. It was just me, him, the owner's manual. And since he doesn't read the owner's manuals, I was the one kind of reading the owner's manual, trying to figure out like how you make it work. And, you know, we made it work.
That's what's up, man. Let me ask you this, man. When did the both, any one of you guys can answer this, when did you know you had something special? And what I mean by that is that most people start and stop. But what was it that defined a moment that said, you know what, we're going to keep doing this, man. I think we got something here. When was that? Do you have a moment?
For me, I would say it probably was when we started messing with Young Lord. So Young Lord, for those who don't know, was one of Bad Boy producers back when
What they call him, the Hitman?
So he was one of the hitmen. And then when me and Rice had started making beats, I think we only had been making beats for a few years before we stumbled into Young Lord. Like a mutual friend of ours worked at a bank and used to see Young Lord coming in there all the time and depositing these checks. And the checks used to have, you know, Bad Boy stamps on them.
Ain't he from the Bronx?
From the Bronx.
Right.
The Bronx. So Young Lord said to the dude, like, yeah, you know, I work for, you know, Bad Boy, this, that, and the third. And this dude happened to say, oh, I know some dudes that make beats. Now, I got to be honest, at the time when we were linked up to Young Lord, we weren't ready. Like from a production point of view, we definitely weren't ready. But, you know, he called us up, we linked up with him, and we played him what we had. You know what I mean? And looking back in hindsight, definitely what we played for him at that point, we definitely wasn't ready. And Young Lord recognized that, and he kind of just took us under his wing for a good year and some change, where he was just showing us things. Like that was the first person that I could say was showing us things like this is how how the drums is now. So for me, I think being with Young Lord and him taking me to the studio and watching like Pun songs get mixed and Fat Joe songs get mixed, I think at that point, I felt like I think we got something here, because if we didn't, then he wouldn't want to fuck with us. So there got to be a reason. He got to see something in us for him to want to fuck with us like that. So for me, I don't know what Rice thinks, but for me, I think that was the first time where I was like, yo, I think we actually got something here. I think we could do something.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing with Young Lord was definitely a pivotal point with us, because the actual time that Young Lord did come over to listen to the beats, it was on Thanksgiving Day. That's the funny part about it. It was on a Thanksgiving Day, on a holiday. He actually came over to my house and listened to the beats, and he had no emotion. He was stone cold. And like Pat, and just like Pat said, we wasn't ready. Those beats was trash. You know, those beats was trash. But he was stone cold. I played him the beats, and he didn't give me no emotion. All he did was say, he gave me a number, and he said, call me this day. And then when I called him, he said, meet me at this studio, and it was Axe's studio. And the song he was mixing that day was Caribbean Connection, Big Pun and Wyclef.
Classic.
So I was actually in, you know, we was there in the studio while he was mixing that record.
Yeah, salute to Young Lord for giving y'all a shot. You know, at least he had the crabs in the barrel mentality. Let me ask you, you mentioned Young Lord. What are some of the other artists that you may have worked with, or other producers you work with?
Producers, well, like Rice got a better memory than I do, but I would say from a producer standpoint, you know, Ty Fife. Those who don't know Ty Fife, he produced joints for 50 Cent, Foxy Brown, Murder, some big records. So we HeatMakerz, obviously. He actually was fucking with HeatMakerz before they were HeatMakerz. You know what I'm saying? So
they from uptown too, right?
Definitely.
HeatMakerz kind of called us in before they were HeatMakerz, like I said, and the equipment was hooked up the wrong way. So they called us in like, man, I can't figure out my drum machine, this, that, and the third. So we was kind of the OG to them at the time to say, and I was like, all right, I come over there, hook your shit up for you. And I pretty much went over to their crib, hooked up their drum machine and everything. Like, yeah, you got your MIDI cord hooked up all wrong, homeboy. You know what I'm saying? And then, so yeah, before they even got on, we was fucking with HeatMakerz, Ty Fife. There was Young
Mahogany.
Made a couple of big records for Rough Riders.
Yeah.
Who else? Producer wise, Rice. I don't remember who else.
I think producer wise, that was about it. But artist wise, everybody from Chub Rock to Nori,
Littles, Kwame, you got
everybody like
Consequence.
Kel Rel,
right.
Vegas, Royal Flush.
Coming off of the Straight Bangers episode, we had an opportunity to sit down with a brother that's an entrepreneur, which I really liked. I really liked. Episode 13 was with Noir BnB.
Wasn't he from Florida?
Yeah.
Florida, right?
Yeah. It was a great conversation, hearing him take his experience with Airbnb and use that as sort of a segue to create his own company, Noir BnB.
That's right.
It was refreshing. And, just speaking to him, he had his hands in so many other things that I'm like, yo, this dude really, you have to give him his props. I watched the interview back, and when he was talking about the concierge service, some of the stuff that he was talking about, he was bossing up, because he wasn't just talking about renting a home or a room to somebody. He was talking about
the whole
private jets.
Had the whole thing locked down, like you said, a one-stop shop concierge service, and on anywhere on the planet, man, you can pretty much fuck with him, and
and the app too. The fact that he had the app, he has the app to go with it. Really good dude, stand-up dude. In fact, one of my men reached out to me and was trying to link with him to book something also after seeing the show.
We need to use his services, man. We need to promote him more, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah, definitely. Noir BnB.
Traveler base. So just like 3% from the host, 7% from the guests.
Okay.
Yeah. It's nice though that it's really nice that you merge together the whole travel experience with the Airbnb experience. How do you determine, like, what's the criteria to be a host? Like, do you have to go out and actually vet the property and look at the property yourself and say, okay, this qualifies as being host worthy? How do you do that?
So some of the times we actually do that, as I guess it's a bit of quality assurance for ourselves and for our travelers as well. But I mean, essentially, the good thing about us being the kind of business that we are is that we're trailblazing in a unique way as far as our business model to focus on our community. But there are a bunch of companies and organizations and platforms that have been there kind of before we have. So what a lot of folks will do is, like, they'll already be listed on Airbnb or Vrbo or HomeAway or other platforms like that, and we'll essentially be like, man, well, look, we'll even create their listing for them, and they can just log in and update whatever they need to update. But essentially, like, a lot of other platforms helps us kind of verify that these are legit properties, and we also do a bit of our own back-end verification and ID testing and stuff for customers to make sure that these are legitimate properties too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense, man.
You guys have the I saw in, I think, Miami, what is it, the Cooper Door, 22 guests. So
yeah, Copper
Door. Like Copper Door? Is it like huge hotels, a huge bed and breakfast? Are they getting in on this also? And
most definitely. Most definitely. So the Copper Door in particular, and the reason why we like them, one, they're a Black-owned, like fully Black-owned B&B down here in Miami. So, I mean, that's always a great look for us. But so some of them are full-on bed and breakfast with 22 rooms. Some of them are like Black-owned hotels. Some of them are just like your auntie and uncle who got an extra room or an extra property and want to rent it out. So, I mean, it kind of runs the gamut, man, across the spectrum.
Nice.
That's dope, man. Airbnb. I need to get my Airbnb game up now, so I need to start traveling. See what this is all about, man.
You got to get your Noir BnB game up.
Right. Absolutely, man. Good stuff, man. So, what do you see? What do you see for the future of Noir BnB? Where you think's going?
Man, honestly, man, like the primary thing for us is just making sure that we can provide and facilitate all the booking requests we have coming in, properly service our customer base and our user base. But in a lot of ways, we're already kind of growing, man. So we're in the process of developing the mobile app, working on that as well. We're continuing to build out the concierge service. We definitely we essentially want to make it so if you want to book your entire travel experience yourself, whether it be booking your accommodations or your flights, your ground transportation, like we want to provide that as well. But on top of that too, like fully building out the concierge service where we can literally provide a top-notch luxury experience and like hands-off. You don't even have to worry about it. Just do your thing, enjoy your trip, and that's the whole thing, man. But we want to do that. We want to partner with different countries and their tourism boards and really like create a seamless end experience and help people not only enjoy different cultures, but also if you're gonna go visit a country, how can your dollars benefit not just that host in that country, but how can it benefit the overall economy of these countries around the world as well too? And of course, particularly Black countries, whether it be Caribbean, African, even primarily Black cities, Black areas around New York, Jersey, Philly, DC, wherever. I mean, Oakland, LA, so places like that. So like we want to make sure that our platform and the revenue that our platform generates can really help benefit the communities that we're a part of. So we want to focus on that. But also too, I mean, hey, if you want to book a private jet on Noir BnB, like we want to have that available for you. If you're in a rush and you took a last minute business trip, like we want to be able to have you, like you could book a quick seat in the barber chair, get your lineup. You know what I mean? Like man. So like a full overall, just a valuable user experience, man. I mean, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But
man. You know what? I appreciate you saying, like, you think about like the tourism dollar. A lot of people don't realize, like, think about what we're experiencing right now. There are so many countries that are severely impacted because they rely on that tourism dollar, and people haven't had the opportunity to travel. I like about the Noir BnB model that I really appreciate is that it's a win-win for all parties, right? As the host, you have an opportunity to make a couple of dollars. I think even as a guest, with me having been a guest through Airbnb before, but now it's going to be through Noir BnB, it's something different staying in a bed and breakfast versus staying in a hotel. Like that experience, it feels much more homely. You feel like you're really involved and ingrained in whatever the culture, whatever the area is, rather than going into a hotel. And like I've had the opportunity and to stay in like 5-star hotels in various different countries. But
Noir BnB.
Yo, the next person we had on for episode 14 was to me, you know what I liked about the interview, because it ran the gambit. Like we started off that interview talking about social injustice.
Right.
And I think we finished talking about fashion exploits and this gentleman's his working relationship with the rapper Nellz and with Damon John from Fubu. It was Willie Esco, and the dude gave us far more time than I thought he would give us.
Yeah, he took a lot of jewels that day, man. Even the collaboration with Puma and what was the other one he was saying? It was
Coogee
and Coogee.
Coogee, yeah.
I thought that was a nice little blend. Yeah, that was the Pumas now. If you look at the Pumas now, there's a pair of Pumas that look just like a Coogee sweater too.
Yeah. It had the Machiavelli collaboration also, where he was working with Tupac's estate.
That's right.
It was to me like listening to him talk candidly about how he created like his own lane. I thought that was dope, when he was sharing how he ended up getting into FIT and how he sort of segued into these working relationships in the fashion industry. He just struck me as a regular down to earth dude that just kept grinding and plugging away.
That's it. Keep the dream alive, man.
Yeah. Here's Willie Esco.
Success for my first investor, right? Which was not the Samsung guys. I need to ensure some penetration into the marketplace, success with my first investor. I need kids to automatically tune in when they hear the name, and Nellz was on the radio playing all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's Latin. That's my family background name. And his boy Ill Will got killed. I'm like, there it is. Like same as remember the same as getting into FIT? I was like, there it is.
Yeah, your universe works with you, brother.
So for me, it was, let me build it. While I'm building, I'm being nice enough to reach out to the team, because I remember working with the photographer, Daniel Hastings. Can you please reach out to him, tell him what I'm working on? Now, I'm totally independent. I'm sort of having some backers, but not Samsung. So it's really crucial to try and reach out to him and get him on board. But he got styled around him. He's being touted, as a very super highbrow rapper. And for me, I'm like, it's no different than going to FIT being scared of these guys are designers. I'm like, so at a certain point, it kicks in, and I'm like, I'm gonna design this. My brand's gonna have an alter ego. It's gonna be for African American culture. Will be for Nellz will represent that for Latin culture, and he does it in his rhymes. Like he puts on a persona of a Latin drug lord, but you're not Latin, nor you are a drug lord. So it's okay for you to do it. I could do it in fashion.
It's the alter ego. That's right.
Yeah. So the ability to push forward, regardless if I make the connection with Nas or not. He ultimately came to my office. Once I had to deal with Samsung, he came to my office and started making noise. And that's when you realize, oh, you don't know too much about anything about fashion. You're like, you have your point of view, but there's no perspective on what's coming, what's the next trend. It's like, I want to wear army jackets and
army hats,
army hats, Tim's. Like, you know, it was the concept of wearing Gucci was just coming about. Yes, Big Daddy Kane did it.
Dapper Dan, the Dapper Dan.
Dapper Dan was doing it, but it was not touched in this era. It was a weird time because they're off the Gucci thing. They're more into black-owned brands and discovery of those black-owned brands called Kanai. And we had our moment, but they were going back into aspirational white brands. So you'll see Nas wearing a pair of Gucci's with flat, hard-soled Gucci's that I remember going to the mall with him and Stout, and they bought these Gucci's that were like, I didn't understand the desire to wear that platform, that low profile, hard-soled shoe with a wide-ass leg jean. I'm like, that shit don't look right, guys. But they wanted that. They wanted that look. They wanted that look. I'm like, I don't get that at all. But okay. So certain styling opportunities came about, and then certain things you just can't say, yeah, that's kind of whack, but you just let them rock out. Like, do whatever you want. At that point, I'm no longer a stylist. I'm like, I'm the designer. Do what you want with the gear. If you need my help, I'll help you.
Right. That's right. Now, I noticed that you've launched the Machiavelli line. And now you're working with Kool G. How is it working with two notable artists such as Biggie and Pop? Them not being here, but still finding the inspiration to create material.
So the finessing and the finagling, like to get into FIT and getting my own name, I got exhausted by being the face of my brand, right? I got exhausted. Why? Because I'm sort of introverted in the sense where I like my privacy, and I started getting in the mix, too much in the mix of the culture where it didn't fit me. Like, I don't pop Cristal. Like, I don't drink and I don't smoke. So there came a point in time when, like, what are you going to be? What do you want to do?
Right.
Are you going to play the role? And I always say, like I said, this ain't gonna last forever, so why play the role? I'll just cut the cord now, man. Like, I'm not going to, me and Nas had disputes, and it was disputes in him not knowing the business. So the anger was focused towards me instead of the business, So you not knowing that you can't own a majority of your business that I created with my partners because you didn't invest in it. You get a percentage.
You get a percentage.
But you don't. Yeah, you can't own 80% of the brand we built up. We put you on last, right?
Wow.
Now I'll go hard and get more for you, right? But I can't do. I don't even own the majority, so I got to go to my partners and ask them, like, what do you think? And it was weird, bro. It's weird because my man, trust me. I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Not me. Now, the dynamic is interesting. Gotta hear me out. I'm unique. I'm from Newark. I'm not from Queens. Fubu guys are from Queens. Nas is from Queens. There is fear in this business of falling off or being left behind, right? So at the time, there's uneasiness. Like, how does Damon John probably have more money than me? right? Because Damon John is in FUBU. He probably controls more of his business than you with Columbia and your music, right? Mm-hmm. So it's frustration there. And then the easy target was me and my crew, right? So, okay, dude, I can only be transparent, right? And I will gladly put you in a room with my partners and let's get you more equity in the company. But that requires a conversation where, you know, that, and I got tired of that. I got tired of trying to appease, or I'm in a club, more superficial things. I'm in a club. Nas wants 10 bottles of Cristal. I'm like, why? Why is it? Because he has to visit image. I'm like,
astronomical, the crazy request, right?
Now this is 10 bottles for Cristal 1998, y'all. This is like, this is a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
All my boys have to have a bottle in their hand. I'm like, wow, I'm like, I need to get out of this. Like, this is not me. This is not me. I love this business, but this being, so I start plotting. I need to get out of this. So I knew I'm coming up on 7 years doing it. I knew the business and Nas's tenure with anybody in the business, you're running 5 to 7 before you have a full blown F you, get out of my face. He did it with everybody. He did it with the firm. He did it with everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I know that it's not anything personal. It's just lack of understanding how the business is run. So I was like, guys, like, I knew it was about to take a turn for the worse. So as exiting, I'm starting to say, all right, what am I going to do next? That doesn't require me to be in a club with you. Don't require me to be in ads. Don't require me to babysit you or an artist. What is that? I'm intellectual in that sense where I want to keep doing this, but I need to do it where I'm sitting back at home, I'm Wizard of Ozing it, you know, behind the curtain, and don't got to do much.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And 2 opportunities came. 50 Cent, G Unit.
Okay. Yeah.
Working with Shai Money. And then my sales rep said, you know, my brother's teaching Tupac in college. I'm like, what? He's like, they're teaching courses of Tupac in college. This is 2003. Right? And I'm like, what do you mean? All of his poetry. He is prolific. He's got a lot of writings. And they're just teaching his. I was like, oh, if they're teaching him in college, and I knew the guy who ran the estate, I'm like, that could be a brand. Like that, I go automatically to like,
bling, 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 bling.
But I got 2 ends of the spectrum. 50's brand new, Tupac is an OG. I'm trying to do both.
Right.
So I put on a table for 50, 500K to do G Unit. Unfortunately, he did an ad with Mark Echo just prior to me starting to get in his head about doing a brand, and Mark gave him $2 million. So I'm like, wow, you got to do that. That's the you do.
Right, you don't look back. Don't look back.
Right, $1 million out the deal, and I'm still on the grind like that. That's from that, right? So, but I was to understand. I had my finger on the pulse is more gratifying than actually, you know, being a face of the brand. Like, I'm gonna do this or this. Both are gonna work, no matter what. Right? I went, put my efforts behind Tupac. No, he's not asking for anything at the club. He's gone. Right? It's gone. Right. There's no issue there. It's just honoring his legacy. And when I started seeing how many people love this guy,
yes, sir.
And the problem why I did not see it is because I'm a Biggie guy. I'm New York. I didn't really like pop. But when I dug, I had kept an open mind, and I dug, and I said, "Yo, this is more genius than what I did with Esco. This is going to be crazy." And then I looked up everything, like 11 million Machiavelli. I'm like, let me just check if that's fucking clear. It's Machiavelli. I can make that a brand. No trademark on the brand. I'm like, oh, there it is again. It's like the most, you sold 11 million copies and nobody trademarked the category for clothing. No problem. So I think this is where if you're tuned in to, you know, how you move, I want to really get out of being a face or anything. This is what it made a way for me. Like, so I'm not a jerk. I went to explain to everybody involved, here's what I want to do. I went to Afeni, sat with Afeni. Here's what I like to do. Inked the deal. And then after I inked the deal, because I had to clear the trademark, I said, I want to call it. They thought I was going to call it Tupac. I'm like, no. It has to be something sexy. And something I control. Like, I didn't control the name Tupac. Like, I want to control the deal. Because you don't know. Like, once you control everything, then you see how people get fidgety in the chair. And they're like, so you want to call it Machiavelli? You're like, Machiavelli, you know, you're like, yeah, that's going to work. And you didn't think of it?
Yeah.
They get like, damn. Like, then they'll do Google, lawyers look at it like, you trademarked this? Yeah. Just think, how do you know I trademarked it? I'm not a jerk, though.
They wanted to beat you to the punch after you mentioned it.
But I leveraged everything, and then I handed it over to Afeni. It's yours. Like, that's not mine.
Nice.
That's right. That's dope.
I'm not an asshole like that. But
that's dope.
Dealing with Nas, dealing with Fubu Queens, like, there are times when we're at Source Awards, you gotta wear my brand. Like, you're at the Source Awards, he'll wear Fubu shit, and I'm like, I'm talking to Damon, and I'm like, yo, guys, what are you doing? Like
cutthroat business. It sound like
like, we're family. Why would you do that to me, man? You shouldn't do that. Like, I don't give packages to LL. You know what I mean? So I wanted out of that, and Tupac was ultimately the easiest thing because
after Willie Esco, we took it back to the Bronx, and we had opportunity to speak to Prospect.
Nice.
Prospect from the Tech Squad.
Wasn't too tough of an interview. He didn't pull too many teeth, but he was cool. He's a cool, laid back dude. You could tell.
Yeah. You know, for me, it was dope to speak to him because the last time I spoke to him, prior to us interviewing him, was probably maybe about a year ago. We have an annual. My man has Shai Day for his brother that passed away when we were younger. So it's just annually, every year they have Shai Day, and it's a barbecue, and you know, we just celebrate his life. Right. And I had a chance to build with Prospect, I think, at a Shai Day, but we didn't really get a chance to like chop it up in detail. So when I reached out to him to do the interview, he was like, bet. So it's always good for me to see, like I was saying about Rice and Pat, to see people that I grew up with doing well for themselves, flourishing in good health, and you know, have something going on. You know, and he's always, just what you guys seen in the interview, that's how he's always been. You know, he's just always been like a real humble, quiet, down to earth.
Man, it is, son. But get him on that mic, it's a wrap.
Yeah. And he played some music for us in that episode too.
Right. In the back of a U-Haul truck, bro.
Nice.
Pun crew, and me and my crew, we went in the back of a U-Haul truck, bro. That's crazy, man.
That's what I was just about to use that word crew, because that's what you don't see no more. You got a crew, son. You got a crew, and it's 4 or 5 of y'all solid as a fucking rock.
Exactly.
That's BX. That's all BX. That's all BX is about, son. Yes. Rolling like a crew. Somebody got your back, son. That's the real shit right there. So I'm loving this right already.
It's crazy how much talent we actually had in the hood, right? Like, yo,
crazy.
my experience, my first experience with Pun, before people told me that Pun, before I knew that Pun rhyme, I didn't even know him as Pun. I knew him as Dog. And it was playing ball. Like, yo, Pun was a big dude, but yo, he was light on his feet.
He was
ball.
nice.
He could ball. And then, you know, I found out that it was him. It was full of clips. It was him, Chase, Cuban, and Toom from my building. Remember Toom?
Toom.
Yeah. And they were full of clips, and they was making their rounds, you know, trying to get on also. You know, tell us about the moment, I guess, like what was the connection? So how'd you end up connecting with Terror Squad?
all through Pun, man. Pun made all that happen. It was crazy because we knew Pun was crazy nice, man. I heard Pun like I only heard Pun like I had like 2 verses I heard him kick like just in the streets, and them shits I ain't never heard no verses like that in my life. You know what I mean? And it was weird because I was at my boy house and we heard You Ain't a Killer come on the radio. And I heard You Ain't the Killer come on the radio, and I felt like a fan, like I didn't know who this dude was. I was amazed. And I was, it's hard to be amazed with people that you know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, I knew him, but it was just when I heard it, it was like I was like, who is this dude? This shit is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So me and my man was playing You Ain't the Killer. So I don't know how some way around I got a tape, a single tape. At that time we had the cassette tapes.
Right.
So it was he had a cassette tape with You Ain't the Killer on one side and I'm Not a Player on the other side.
The original version, right?
Oh
wow. Before probably not even before I'm Not a Player. I know You Ain't the Killer was on that tape I had. And I was playing that You Ain't the Killer, and I had a Walkman at that time. We had the tape in the Walkman, and I was playing that shit. And I'm on the corner playing that. On the corner of Little Vales, 165 Prospect. You know what I'm saying? And Pun pulls up in the car, and he stops. He like telling me, stop and say what's up to me. And I'm like, yo, what up, Pun? What up? What up? And I'm like, yo, I got this your tape right now. I'm listening to your song. Yo, that shit is fire. And I guess he was so surprised that somebody had his song and was playing that shit. He was like, yo, hold up, we gonna chill out. Hold up.
Now you pulled over.
He's like, yo, chill. I'm gonna grab Cuban and do it. We're gonna come back at the 40s.
No doubt.
We're gonna hang out.
DX shit.
Yeah. So he wanted to grab me before he grabbed Cuban.
That's what's
He wanted to put it up the Cuban crib too deep. You know what I'm saying? And me, him, and Cuban started hanging out that day. That one day, went to his crib. I ain't leave his crib in like 2 days, bro. He didn't let me go home. I was a kid for like 2 days, bro. And we was just vibing and connecting like that, and it's ever since that day.
Wow, son. And you got the dopest MC name too. I don't know if that's your hood name, but Prospect. Come on, my nigga. That's BX 3000, my nigga.
Yeah, there was a double meaning behind that, meaning because the meaning of the word.
Right, of course.
And I was the young upcoming dude at that time.
I'm
from Prospect. I'm from Prospect Avenue, born and raised.
Yeah, son. Yo, my entire father's side is from Forest, son. So when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, somebody got a real Bronx name. That's a Bronx.
Yeah, bro. So that's me. I'm born and raised. That's me
all day. That's what's up. Man.
I got all my love from music, everything from that street, man.
Right. Working with Pun though. What were some of the best sessions you had with Pun?
All of them, man.
Everyone, man.
All of them. You know what I'm saying?
You can't even put one in perspective, right?
Nah, he was just always thinking of something new to invent or something. He was always trying to find some new ways to prank you or something to keep us going. He liked to keep the energy up in the room. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want nobody down and feeling sad or just in your own zone by yourself. Nah, we all reacting together. And we interacting with each other.
Yeah, you can tell that from Pun. He had that loyalty about him, man. He had that big homie, that big brother type of, you know what I'm saying? You can see that.
He knew how to make you feel like genuine love in a few minutes. So when he can say something to you, he probably can snap on you like somebody you knew for 20 years. And he meet you in 2 minutes and snap on you and say that to you, and you wouldn't take it that way. You'll feel love about it.
You be laughing with him.
Yeah. That's a fact, definitely. Yeah, he's definitely a prankster, a joker, a dude who just he's always had like a real good heart or whatever.
Yeah, you could be that way, and he could be that way because he official and he a real dude. And when you official and you real and you comfortable with yourself, you ain't got to worry about trying to be a tough guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trying to look hardcore in front of everybody. You could be a clown and do all this stuff, but people know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Also being in that environment, you've probably worked with some of the, I don't know, craziest producers, man. Are any that you want to work with, that you haven't worked with, being in the game so long?
Oh, man. Buck Wild was a crazy Buck Wild, Premier, Primo, We had another dude, Young Lord. We had
Young Lord. Yeah, we talked about Young Lord not too long ago.
Yeah, we had some dudes, man. You know what I mean? I rhymed on most of them tracks anyway. Like it wasn't my own solo track, but I rhymed on a few of them tracks with us as a group. You know what I'm saying?
That's
so
right.
I kind of got that feel. But if anybody, I would want Dr. Dre.
Yeah, who don't?
You know what I'm saying?
Give me three. Give me a couple of those.
Yeah, Dr. Dre, and right now Kanye. Give me a Kanye joint.
Yeah.
Kanye West. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So what was the first track you end up getting on with them?
The first track I did was with Pun. That was a freestyle for Tony Touch mixtape. The best 50 MCs.
Oh, classic mixtape.
Wow.
Yeah.
Best 50 MCs, Latin Connection. No, yeah, it was the best 50 MCs, Tony Touch. And Pun had brought me with him, and I hopped on that with him. That was the first one. That was the one that kind of persuaded Joe to want to, go more harder with me.
Then, after we interviewed Prospect, I must admit, this interview, when it was presented to us, and I give Zane his props for this because Zane identified this person. Then we had, for episode 16, we had Blondy Baruti from the BePerk social media app. And
I like this, bro. I like this, bro.
Yeah, what you all don't know, what you don't see on camera is that behind the scenes, myself, Rob, and Zane, we have these conversations. Sometimes the conversations go really smooth. Sometimes the conversations don't go so smooth. And it's tough deliberation, because we're all saying whether we think this person would appeal to our audience.
Right.
So we move forward with Blondy Baruti in the BePerk app. And to be candid, it was a challenging interview. And what made it challenging is, I don't know if they've updated it since, but at that time, BePerk was only on iOS, which is for iPhone. Rob and Zane don't use the iPhone, so I was the only person with access to the app. And we take pride in when we do our interviews that we actually research people.
Right.
So we want to see the app. We want to learn about the people. And I think that what came out of that interview for me, what I discovered and what I really appreciated, even more so than the app, was his story of coming from the Congo.
That's right.
And actually making it Congo.
During wartime.
Yeah, he had a hell of a story.
Traveled wartime, and then I think his mom's, somehow he got to California after that, and then he started going to school, he's playing ball, messed up his ankle.
Yeah, and he's an actor. So again, I say like the behind the scenes of this stuff that what people don't see that doesn't make it to the screen. Like there's careful deliberations about who we actually put on the platform and why we put them on the platform. But it turned out to be a good interview, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed having a conversation with the brother.
And I think the content, like I said, the content that we're using, so we can grow our audience, is broad, it's wide range. We want to make sure we touch a little bit of everything from all ages, 30 to 35, all up to 65. Any bit of information we can use for our community, we try to bring. Try to bring that to the forefront.
Yeah. Check out Blondy Baruti. BePerk.
Original with Shannon and a good brother, Mr. Rob. Today we are joined by Blondy Baruti from the BePerk app. How you doing, brother?
Yes,
nice
sir.
to meet you.
I'm doing good. Nice to meet you as well.
So we're excited to have you here today to talk a little bit about the app. But before we get into discussing the app, I did want to, we talked a little bit behind the scenes, and I did do some research and look you up. And I want to talk a little bit about the journey of how you went from the Congo to Hollywood, and now it seems like Silicon Valley. What was that like?
Well, it's been like a very, very long journey. I was born in the Congo, and when I was 10 years old, my mom and my sister, we were involved in a civil war, and we had to run over 500 miles, and it took us about 18 months, through the jungle of the Congo to survive civil war. And I was only 10 years old, and it was one of the toughest journey of my life, of our lives, because I wrote a book. The jungle became part of me. What I meant was, at the beginning, it was very, very hard, because to live in the middle of nowhere, through the jungle of the Congo. But after a few months, after 2 or 3 months, it became normal. It became a new home, which is not normal. which is not normal to live in the middle of the jungle.
Sure.
So I wrote a book like the jungle became part of me, and then after 18 months through the jungle of the Congo, somehow we survived. I lost all my friends. And even until today, my mom asked me, I was like, I still don't know how you survived because you were falling sick every week and we had no medicine, but somehow you keep hanging there, you keep surviving, you keep fighting. And here we are. And then we moved to the west coast of the Congo. And that's when I started learning how to play soccer with my friend. And because if you're an African kid, everyone plays soccer, but I was a little bit too tall to keep playing soccer. And my friend pushed me to learn how to play basketball, nice. And then I picked up basketball and I just fell in love with it. And I started practicing every single day. And I wrote a book. I used to walk. First of all, when I first moved to the US in 2008, when I was 17 years old, I was introduced for the very first time to GPS, and I started to think, okay, here to there, it's 1 mile. So how many miles I used to walk back home? So
I got that. I can do that.
Oh my goodness. So I can imagine I used to walk close to 12 miles a day from home to school to basketball practice, pick up game with my friends, pick up game and walk all the way back home, every single day. And it was normal. And when I used to tell my friend that one day I'm going to go to the US, I'm going to play college basketball, they were like, you are nuts. You are crazy. Because it doesn't happen, I used to walk I used to play basketball with pretty much no shoes on, and outside in 110 degrees, but
wow.
And
your crossover is deadly, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I'm telling my visions to my friend, one day I'm gonna go to the US, I'm gonna play college basketball, I'm gonna make it to the NBA, and they were like, this guy's delusional, he's nuts, he's crazy. I was like, no, I'm gonna make it happen. That's right. I knew the best way to get there was I had to get myself ready for it. So which means I had to sacrifice, I had to walk 10 miles a day to practice every day, to shoot around every day, to just get ready whenever the opportunities comes out. So
come out.
And then come out. And then somehow one day this guy came to me, his name was Dr. Lisa. It was like, I've been watching you in the last couple months, and your offense suck, but your defense is very, 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 very good. And he was like, in basketball, we can teach you how to be a better offense player, but defense, not too many players like to play defense.
That's
and
right.
For you to be so comfortable playing defense, because I used to just block 10 blocks a day, just blocking and just getting 20 rebounds. That's what.
Nice.
I just wanted to block shot and get rebound. That's what I wanted to do all day. I didn't want to score. I just wanted to block shot and get rebound. And then he had a friend here in the US. They contacted me and I was very, very lucky. I was offered basketball scholarship, to come to a prep school, and then I came down here and a lot of things happened during my life. America was a different type of jungle that I had to go through, to get here. Sure. But I survived and I play high school basketball and I got a bunch of scholarships and I decided to go to Tulsa University. And it was a small private school. And I went there and then I double major in college, business management and theater. And then right after my freshman year, I broke my ankle and that was the end of them. And the doctor told me you had to let it go. And then I was like, okay, so what's next? Basketball is over. So what's next? We gotta find another way. We gotta find another way to try to survive. So I was like, okay, why not write a book? And I told my friend, I'm gonna write a book about my life, and it's gonna be a successful book. It's gonna inspire people, and we're gonna make a movie out of them. You're like, you don't even speak English. How you gonna write a book? I was like, I'm gonna write it down.
I'm gonna do it. That's right.
I'm gonna do it with my broken English.
Then coming off the BePerk interview, we had episode 17. This, to me,
this was a dope interview.
Yeah, this was one of
this was the first interview that was we was on set because he was at someone's house putting up a crazy mural.
Mm-hmm.
And he was showing, it was Wow, here we are on set. We was on the phone with for a little minute too, man.
Yeah. Look, here's another behind the scenes story with this. I don't know if Rob remembers, but we did the interview. It was probably like over 2 hours. I remember ending the interview, talking to my wife and telling my wife, yo, that was the dopest interview that me and Rob have done so far. I was so excited about this interview. Went to play it back. No audio. I think I called you and told you.
Yeah. I remember that. It was like, yo, no audio. I'm like, what? We just messed that up.
No audio. But then, like after I dug through the clips, I was able to salvage
some of that. Yeah,
some of the audio. And I have to say that Demont Pinder story, Monty, very cool, down to earth brother. That even in fact, after we ended the interview with him, he started making calls on behalf of us, reaching out, like trying to connect us with people to get other people to come on the platform, which honestly he didn't have to do.
That's right.
You know, but he was
dope. That was dope for him to do that, man.
Yeah. It was a really good interview. And you know, for this clip, what we decided to do, because we had so many pieces of footage, instead of playing something or showing you guys something that was actually in the interview that you had an opportunity to see air, we're gonna put out some unreleased footage from the interview for you to see. Some behind the scenes from Demont Pinder.
Nice.
All right, that's cool.
So right here you have Stevie. I ain't finished. It's not even detail yet. It's just the outline. I mean, I'm like 73% done with it. I still got more details to do, even with Marvin. But we making this. A friend of mine named Eddie, man. He has a beautiful home out here in Baltimore, man. It's one of them old, what's the Craftsman house? I think Craftsman style. Okay. But it's dope. We renovated the inside and everything. It's just dope. But I had the opportunity to put some of the figures that I love to put on the wall. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we got Miss Aretha Franklin. I actually painted at her tribute concert and had the picture at her funeral the next day too. So shout out to Franklin, my friend Crystal, her niece, you know what I mean? Yeah. We're gonna put Nana Royce up. We got Frederick Douglass over there, so it's literally different pockets. I'm gonna post it too though, but it's different pieces on the wall that got different pieces of art.
If I ever get the basement I want, you're doing my basement, brother. Just tell
it's like that, but you know, even son. You got, even if you don't got no walls, you got somewhere. We could just hang it.
That's right.
That's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my favorite joint is I'm a huge Stevie Wonder fan, so I seen the Stevie Wonder clothing joint with the beads. Like, I was like,
with the young Stevie, son. Yeah, son.
Official.
Stevie came on stage with us in DC. He sung it was during, because him and Raheem birthdays are back to back. Okay. So he actually blessed the stage, man. So I could say I perform with Stevie Wonder, man. Like, I got his videos of I think if you Google Raheem and Stevie Wonder at the Savoy Club in LA or something like that, whatever, the video will pull up. You'll pull up.
How could Spike Lee not realize though the size of that picture? Like, I'm looking, and I'm even looking at the photos on Instagram. You can tell, like, yo, that's a fairly decent size picture. You know, like the work is a fairly decent size. That's not something you look at, you be like, yo, this is a 12 by 12. Come on now, really? You see the size of the clothes?
I can't see. You see the size of Spike glasses. You can't see.
So that's the reason. So I didn't even say this in the interview, whatever. What I was gonna say about the whole thing, that's what made me do the permanent Malcolm X, because when I didn't hear back from him, I'm like, yo, I see, oh man, you know what? I want to make this joint permanent right now, and I'm gonna hang this joint so I can stand beside it so you can see how big. That was my motivation to make that first permanent piece, because I didn't get the response, or I didn't get hit back by Spike, whatever. And no love lost on that end, but that was my motivation. So now it's like, even if it never gets sold, but I can feel like I did it. Like, yo, this joint had a big, massive X. You know what I mean? In a restaurant, boom, boom, whatever. But the way I did it was already on the floor, and I had to piece by piece kind of like put it together. End up putting a big piece of fabric behind it. So that was my base. Right. So I took my base, and it was a big cloth. I literally rolled it up and how big it was, I rolled it up and it just fit inside of a laundry bag. You know, the nylon.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It just made it inside. So that's how I traveled down to Art Basel with that in my bag. I flew Southwest. You know, you get 2 free bags, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that, and then I had numerous canvases all like stacked together, taped together. So that was my other piece of luggage, whatever. And I got it down to Miami, whatever. And we tried to hang it up. Eventually, it wouldn't work. So what I did was I laid it down on the ground and I took 4 pieces of wood.
And I just surrounded it.
And then I kind of like stick like. That's how it was. But it was hell getting that picture of it. Hell. Because of the way the restaurant is made, we had to do it between the register and different things, and business was open. I'm like, oh my God, yo, I'm trying to pick it up.
Trying not to ruin it.
Like to the point where my man hit me, like my man, the owner hit my phone. I didn't even answer, so I'm like, oh man, yo. In the middle of business right now, you know what I'm saying? And I still haven't got the picture up on the wall, and we struggling. I'm like, you know, I'm trying to, but it worked out though. You know what I mean? It definitely worked out. And it's hanging up there today, man. But moving forward, I know I'm gonna do a permanent piece. I got another piece of John Witherspoon joint.
That'd be high.
Yeah, that's the what collection is that?
Pops. Witherspoon Pops.
Is it? We call it the embedded project or something like that.
Oh, Depend the Fabric Art.
Right.
Yeah. So you get the hashtag for those, and you'll be able to pull up the other ones. The Nipsey Hussle. You seen the Snoop one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I was in ponytail. Nipsey, I was part of his braid, I think. Janet Jackson and Tupac, I was part of her braids. So, I be trying to hide in there, man.
The Prince joint too, yeah.
The Prince joint was crazy.
Too, yeah.
My man Kenny Sway did an incredible job singing the joint. We made it like a little mini movie from the joint. So
yeah, you a sneakerhead too?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see the sneakers in there and the pictures.
I haven't got busy in a minute, you know what I'm saying? But I got some people that got that collection. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't got enough for that battle or to be in that conversation. If for shits and giggles, yeah, but I'm more of a sneakerhead, meaning like
you wear. You don't.
You just wear some fly. You just wear some cool shit.
I like fly shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if it's a pair of felines. Like if it look fly and I know I could throw it like some like you know what I'm saying? Like I'm a real simple dude. So
I got me a pair of Diodoras last year.
Oh man,
whew. I'm trying when I'm trying to find, I haven't found yet, is I want the Lottos with the patches. That's the shit I need.
Take patches though, right?
Yeah, those I can't find them nowhere. Like I've been looking like on eBay, looking everywhere, and I can't find them nowhere. But them are the joints I need, them Lottos with the patches. But Diodoras, Felines, like yo, them are the joints.
I had some white and sky blue suede Diodoras.
Yeah, those is nice. Those is nice right there. Those is killers right there.
You know, for the fabric joint that you may want to connect with, it'd probably be hard as hell to get to him though. But Ronnie Fig from Kip.
Yeah. I was thinking about him when you was talking about the deal. I was like, yo, he might be the one with the Lottos. I was like, you might want to hit Ronnie. He probably bring out but nah, my nephew edition, he want to connect me with him so bad. Like, yo, you need to get. I guess I don't know, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, only thing I could do is just outwork myself, man. Hopefully that.
You know what? I guess we must have been like an art vibe during that time, because after we finished up with Monty, shortly thereafter.
Did your sister, right?
Yeah, my sister-in-law. Shout out to Tiffany. ATL Art Vibes. Tiffany came on and she shared with us some of the work that she's been doing down in Atlanta. Tiffany is probably hands down, when you say artist, like she's artist to the bone. Like, I mean, she did culinary art. If you go to her house, you see all kinds of things that she made. Outside of her house, things that she made. She works on murals,
body paint,
all
sorts of stuff, man. Super talented, man. Very, very creative. That was a delight too of a show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. You know why? Because I mean, it was different for me because I'm used to talking to her as Tiffany, not interviewing her.
Right.
You know, it was a good discussion, and I think that it went right. It went hand in hand with us having Monty on the week before and then having her, because it was a nice transition from artist to artist and gave people an opportunity to see the different type of art that people were doing.
That's right.
Everything to me, like I still do it, and now it makes sense. And he's one of my biggest fans now. So
right. You got a lot of work.
Yeah, we had Demont Pinder
for Pinder Story. I'm sure you're probably familiar with some of his work. We had
I just discovered him recently, so I like this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, he was on earlier in the week, and one of the things that I asked him is that, you know, if you're as an artist, and you know, I think an artist encompasses, you know, people that's in music, acting, poetry. There's just so many different variations of art. But when you start thinking about music as a musician, there can be a mentor, you know, somebody you're like, man, I really want my sound to sound like Prince, Michael Jackson, or whatever it is. As an actor, there could be somebody you could say, well, you know, for years I've studied the classics, like I've Sidney Poitier, Eddie Murphy, whoever it is. But for an artist, who do artists look at? Artists that paint and draw, who are their mentors? Who are the people that they look at and say, you know what, I want to fashion my art after this person?
That's a good question. I don't think there's a specific person for me. It's a lot of things that inspire me, not just other art from artists. And I don't know. And I kind of feel like I struggle with my style too, because I don't really have a certain person that I like or a certain style of art. I'm just intrigued by all of it. So I feel like that's why I'm kind of like hands into everything. Like I do sculpting stuff.
Yeah,
like
you do a lot,
I can
man.
sew. Like I'm doing stuff with rocks outside. Like I'm just everywhere because like my brain is so open now because I finally have that freedom, and like my mom's not gonna slap me or ball up my paper because she's like, where's your homework? Put that away. So now I just feel like, oh my God, I gotta dip my hands into everything, and I appreciate every artist. Like I kind of don't know how to describe it. Like I don't know. I'm just all the way in.
I appreciate that piece. I appreciate that piece over your left shoulder with the gumball machine. I was like, oh, that's dope.
Do you know that this is not gumballs in here?
What is that?
These are all hearts. Let me show you.
Wow, son.
They're hearts because I thought about this like in real life. You don't know when you're choosing a mate, you don't know who you're going to get, what their heart is like. Some of them have chains on it. Wow. Some of them have holes in it. Some of them are blue because they're cold. That's to me, like, it's just like taking a risk dating somebody.
Right.
We see the perfect heart. It's kind of like, you know, when you were a kid and you asked your mom for that quarter because you wanted that ring or something, and then you got the stupid crap out. So you see something you wanted, you expect to get that, but in reality, you're taking a chance and you don't know which one's going to come out. Maybe that person's not capable of love anymore. Right. Maybe that person has a wife that passed and you know, they have that hole in their heart. You just don't know. So a lot of my pieces aren't what they seem. It's a lot of thought behind it.
Right, that little story behind them.
Yeah. Because I'm not good at talking and explaining myself. So I found somewhere to do that.
And listen, art is the greatest expression because it gives you the freedom. Talk to me about your Becoming a Woman piece. I seen that piece. I like that piece, man. I'm a gardener, so I like that.
Back to my parents. Growing up, they had this idea of, okay, she's so smart that she should be a doctor. Like, so they pushed that on me. I have about 7 years of college. I don't feel it. Right. So I just feel like when I decided that I didn't want to go to college anymore and being a doctor wasn't for me, I feel like everybody in my family kind of threw me away. Like, that was the golden child. That was going to be the first doctor of the family and blah, blah, blah. She messed up her life. She wants to paint. Like, you know, they kind of looked at me like, what are you doing? So I noticed that everyone kind of shifted away from me. Now nobody cared. Nobody wanted to speak to me like that. It felt different. So I felt like I was a seed being thrown away, but they didn't know I was going to come back out like this.
Wow. All right,
so
that makes sense.
Okay, I don't have to be a doctor to be successful or whatever. Like I feel it in my spirit, and I'm gonna do what I was supposed to do.
Episode 19 was with Shyheim the Rugged Child.
Killer B in the building. That was and he responded. And he came on. He was chopping it up. I think his grandmother came in, shut it down for a little bit. Somebody knocked on the door or something like that.
Yeah,
he had to cut that piece out.
Yeah, but you know something?
Nah, he was dope, and it was straightforward. It was open. I really like talking to Shyheim, man. Shyheim was a good guy, man.
Yeah, the behind the stories of that also is I remember when we first set up to do the interview for him, I think I was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
At the time, and I know my internet was acting weird and funny, and I think he forgot about the interview time, so we had to reschedule it for a couple of days later.
Right.
You know, he was a man of his word, and he came on. And I was saying to him, you know, look, thank you. You said you was gonna come on. You came on, and he was like, "No, if I tell somebody I'm gonna do something, I'm definitely gonna do it." And he was open. He was candid about everything. You know, from all the great things that he's accomplished and that he's done well, and the mistakes he made in life.
That's right. It was a very open conversation, man. He allowed us to ask the questions that didn't hide or shy away from anything that we asked, and he was straightforward.
Yeah.
Shyheim, man, peace to the God.
This the clip we're gonna go to is one of my favorite questions that Rob asked him. Rob, you know what question that is?
What, about imagination?
Nah. What does it mean to be a killer bee?
You're in the Bronx, though. You know nothing about the Bronx, but you from Staten Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens, man. That happens, man. Where they position cops, that's crazy. Yeah, but look, I want to ask one simple question, brother. What does it mean to be a killer bee?
Oh, what does it mean to be a killer bee? I mean, you can take that. You can take that different ways. You know, a killer bee is just like, you know, it's like metaphorically speaking. You know what I'm saying? This, you know, a killer bee stings and you know what I'm saying, they attack and they swarm, and you know, we roll deep, so we roll to the swarm like a pack of bees. You know what I'm saying? But the killer bees, when the killer bees came, it was men business. You know what I'm saying? Everything
take shit out.
Go down. Yeah.
Right. That's peace, man. That's a dope shit. Cause I love not just the Wu, but the affiliation, the killer armies, everybody, but it still had that signature to it. You know what I'm saying? Just the way y'all, the way.
Yeah, so I was a dope interview with Shyheim. And it's interesting because we transitioned from interviewing Shyheim to another great find that I think that Zane found also. Arash Malek, the founder of Scent Wedge. Now, this was another one of those interviews that behind the scenes, we had deliberation as to if we thought that it would be a good interview for our platform. And I'll be honest with you, I think in the end it turned out to be a really good discussion. My apprehension about it initially was thinking that
what would our listeners take from it?
Yeah, that was my apprehension. The man is fascinating, and I knew everything that he was doing. He's an engineer. Everything that he's doing is interesting. I personally didn't want to feel like, because it's something that I have an interest in, that's applicable to all the listeners.
Right.
But when it was all said and done, and we looked at the views, apparently the viewers actually liked what he was talking about also.
They enjoyed it, man. And this little engineering idea for that scent wedge, but Tesla, like, who thinks of stuff like that? That was a dope show.
Yeah, yeah. And Arash Malek is right out the bay too. And it's crazy because he talked, you know, didn't he share with us? He said that he was a producer.
That was our first techie show, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he said something like, yeah, I was producing, making beats or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so his brother's a producer, engineer, making face masks at the height of COVID, taking pictures of the Tesla.
Yeah. He's making the shield. The shield you see everybody wearing, he was making those.
Great find by Zane.
Shout out to Zane. Where you at, Zane?
And we're joined today by Arash Malek. What's up, Arash? How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. Alive. How are you?
I'm doing well. Where you currently at now?
I'm in Berkeley, California right now.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. I'm in Connecticut, but I'd rather be where you are.
Yeah, I know the weather. I know the weather's great over there, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's always good.
I'm out in Maryland.
All right.
So you're involved currently, you know, you're involved in a number of projects, but nothing more timelier than what you're doing with the face shields. How hard was it for you to pivot from doing your thing with Scent Wedge, and I know you have involvement with Tesla also, to now making these face shields?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a moment of just realizing that, you know, if the medical professionals, you know, contract COVID, and, you know, whether they get seriously ill or not, they're still out of the game for like 14 days. Mm-hmm. And so that was the moment of realization that just, you know, I realized I had the tools to do something, and I had the design background to do something. So, I mean, doing nothing would have been the wrong thing to do, you know. So it was literally just a moment of realization, and the next day I was making face shields or working on the design. And so the design itself took like a week to try and, you know, make something that's super efficient and cost effective and easy to produce. And then after that, it was just straight to production, making as many as I could, and, you know, iterating along the process along the way too, lots of iterations. So I think by the end of it, I had 3 different iterations while in production. And so, yeah, and just based on feedback from all the people that were using it, and along the way, like increasing efficiency as well. You know, the from the beginning, the plastic that I was using, you know, was really unorthodox for face shields. You know, it was, you know, the screen itself was made from overhead projector sheets that I, you know, remember back from elementary school. And the plastic that I was using was, you know, acrylic that wasn't yet being used for, you know, these screens. But now a lot of the acrylics being used for divider screens at stores, you know, so there's it's becoming a problem. It's becoming a problem. And so that kind of shifted me to iterate and redesign a little bit to be able to use any size thickness of plastic, because I was using 3/16 before. But that it's become very popular for, you know, the countertop or the, you know, the counter dividers. So, at the checkouts. So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, the process for me was just, it was very intuitive. It was very fast. In a way, like everything kind of came together really, really fast, and, you know, it was a product of, you know, desperation, really. You know, just trying to do something. And,
did you collaborate with anybody in putting the design together, or was it just you that?
No, it was just me. It was basically, well, so it was me coming up with the design, and then I had a friend who's a respiratory therapist who I hit up and just had him try it on. You know, just so we can get it on a different head, and also just see how it fits and if it's, you know, beneficial. Once he gave me the green light is when I actually ran to production to start making them. But yeah, I mean, originally, you know, it was based off feedback from him for sure. Yeah, I mean, it was really important to make it reusable because, you know, most face shields with the foam forehead piece aren't reusable because you can't sterilize it. So the idea was to create something that's super affordable, super cheap, and also, you know, non-porous, so nothing, it doesn't absorb anything. You can easily
You can reuse it.
Yeah, you can reuse it, exactly. And then also all the parts are designed to be snapped off and replaced as needed. So it was really to reduce the waste, and I had no idea how wasteful the medical industry was until I started looking into face shields, and I was like, wow. Yeah, so, you know, that was really eye-opening. Yeah.
What's the cost associated with manufacturing one of them? Like how much?
Yeah, so it was around $3. Was what I estimated. But that was
21. Episode 21, I have in my top 5.
Yeah, that's one.
Episode 21 was Dr. Garfield Bright from the group Shai. I thought that was, to me, that was like hands down like one of my favorite conversations that we had with somebody. And the energy exchange in the conversation, I really appreciate it. You know, like a lot of people we bring on and we just hit them with questions and they answer to the best of their ability. But with him, the dialogue seems so
and it's the word.
It just seemed natural, right? It just seemed like we were coming at the barbershop building.
Yeah, it flowed very, 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 very smoothly, and he didn't mind elaborating. Like we ask a question, he'll go off, and there's something else relating to the question, but then give a comparable or something related, and then jump into some of his personal life. It's a dope place, man. It was a dope show, definitely dope show.
You know what how I could tell that the interview was really, really going crazy? Because we spoke to him, it had to be about 2 hours. Probably 10 minutes of that interview was actually about Shai and music. You know that? Like the rest of the interview was about his time at Howard, his time at the Nation,
Yeah, he's part of the nation.
Social justice. Dick Gregory's daughter.
Wow, I forgot about
Yeah, it was, to me, it was just like, that's what I said. I got that in one of my top 5 favorites. That the replay value on it, like, you know, I watch these interviews. You know, of course, I'm present when we do them, and I'm listening to everything that people say.
Right.
Then when we go to edit, I see it in editing. Then when it premieres, I see it when it premieres. But I've watched that over and over again in my spare time because I just think like, yeah, so that's one of my favorites. This is a dope conversation.
Interview, man. We did some research for that guy, man, because he was so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is, a former R&B singer, Grammy winner. He's a professor. Like,
yeah.
The two didn't make sense until you find out his story, and it's like, oh, all right.
And Dr. Garfield Bright said that anytime we needed him, he'd be willing to come back on. So don't be surprised if y'all don't see him back on sometime soon.
And he was kind enough to even shout my sister out.
Oh yeah. Did your sister see the shout out? What did she say?
What? He was elated, like he spoke to me. You know how they get.
Episode 21. Dr. Garfield Bright.
But yeah, all of that was going on. And at the time at Howard in DC, it was the crack era. So when I was in the nation, that was the time when 2 things big happened. Dr. Abdul Ali Muhammad was running for Congress for the first time ever. So where were the votes going to come from? Because this was a non-traditional move. So literally, we went to all the hoods from PG County all over DC, and we were doing voter drives that actually go to door to people who would never ever think of voting, to show them Dr. Aline that this will be a candidate who ain't like a politician, somebody who's going to put himself into the fray of electoral politics, but he's a real brother that whatever he say he's going to do, and if he say he's going to do something for you on that level, he's going to actually do it if elected. Yeah. And they believed it, but we had to like sign people up, man. It was grueling, like 15, 16-hour days, whole summer. And then we went right from there to the Nation of Islam started getting security contracts because what we were doing was taking over housing projects and ridding them of like, you know, stopping the drug dealers, because a lot of these like Mayfair mansions, a lot of like elderly living in these projects scared to death to like, you can come outside.
Terrorized probably.
Without no weapons, man. We were just setting up patrols 24/7 in these spots. And kind of
I tell you, when the FOI show up, things change.
Yeah, I mean, we got shot at and different things like that, but we held it down and we persevered. And after a minute, it showed and proved that, you know, with the love move and the love concept, and they knew we weren't armed, so the conscience of a brother couldn't go but so far just to, you know, a couple of them tried, but on the most part, it was a heated exchanges often because we was messing up their money. But at the same time, they understood why we was doing it for grandma, you know what I mean? Like and a lot of grandmas, the crack houses was grandma's house because she couldn't really, you know, defend herself against a young grandson who was doing that. You know, it was like, he was running up in crack houses, man, dudes trying to shoot the gun, wouldn't go. It was crazy. But we really were like, doing that. So we started, the nation was getting government contracts for a minute. And so I was one of the youngest site supervisors because, you know, all cable buildings are federal. And so I was like by Howard, there was a cable building on 13th Street, or 14th Street. Anyway, they put me in charge of that because since I was a college student and dealing with the administrators at the cable building, they kind of wanted to know a collegiate type of face to interact. And I hold it down. I was bright enough and everything, but it was crazy because at the age of 19, I was like in a leadership position as a manager of that site over grown men who were like 40 and 50, and I had 12 employees that I was juggling their schedule, and nobody wanted to work this one shift, and I had to work the midnight to noon shift. Like that was against nature, and go to Howard, go to school. Wow, it was crazy, man. But I was a young, I got married young. It was just a crazy. I was doing a lot as a young shorty. So before Shai, man, I had grown up a lot real quick. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Let me ask you, because your master's is in African American Studies, right?
Yeah. So that's because of Howard's influence.
So I'm just wondering, like, you know, everything that we have going on in the world right now, and race relations is something that's like a hot topic for everybody. I often hear people say, like, for the police force, they'll say things like, well, we need to hire more minorities, which to me is a simplistic fix if we have a corrupt system, you know. And I liken it sometimes to, you look at the New England Patriots, right? Bill Belichick could drop anybody in that system and they'll flourish because the system is designed to help people excel. What's your opinion on race relations and You know, how do we begin, I guess, to move forward?
Race relations suck. And they suck because we do everything in society based on binaries with the misinterpretation of opposite as versus, as opposed to complementary. So that, and capitalism, which is, and I'm not talking about just America, because even in the communist countries, the global game is global capitalism. So we talking about supply and demand, period, which has a built-in race component, period. And, you know, because my theoretical framework was critical race theory coming from critical legal studies, which says that race is woven into society, end of discussion. There is no, I wonder if, and no, I'm starting from the premise that racism exists and it's ubiquitous.
Of course.
So from there, dealing with that, race and class can't be separated. There's racialized class, even, like, you know, so all of those things. But the binary, the way we deal with each other as humans, we constructed race to navigate a faux reality based on a matrix that we kind of invented also as a construct, and conceptualized humans through the race piece. The only thing was that through postmodernism, with the European establishing themselves as European and moving westward and deciding to, you know, to enrich the countries and go through different places and encounter different colors, they have this concept called true possession, where the white conceptual whiteness felt like possession was not true unless they established it. So when they would go to America and find quote unquote Native Americans doing Native Americanness, that was not truly something that was supposed to stick, proprietarily speaking, to the white concept, because it was rough, it was raw, it wasn't something, you know, in their mind it was barbaric as opposed to cultural. And so they, because of that, felt like those people forfeited their right to possess that identity that they created. Let me give you one that suits me better, that I think you would look better on. And that concept, whiteness starts to function as property, and those who possess that property are protected from its ravages, its collateral damage. You know what I mean? So you start getting whiteness as property, and then the binaries created because the rugged individualism and the competition aspect of capital, the marketplace, dialectical materialism. So even if I'm cool with you in the classroom, let's put it in the local way. If I'm cool with you in the classroom, Joe and Rosie are both my people, my friends, my ride or die. At some level, the structure, when you talk about structure, is skewed in its own self, not as a mistake, but as a byproduct of its natural design, haves and have-nots. That I'm competing with Rosie and Joey because I need to get a scholarship and it's limited. So maybe I'm competing with them through grades to get the scholarship. Like, it's always putting me in a competition-based piece with my fellow brother and sister. And then we start to conflate that over time with that's what humans naturally are, is competitive. And I beg to differ. I think if put in a system with equanimity, and see, the whole thing is imagination. You have to out-imagine this. You know, it's almost audacious to imagine a system that is not based on haves and have-nots, which is going to create an imbalance on the floor to any structure you build off of capitalism or that dialectic is going to be skewed because the whole system itself is skewed. You can't build an equitable thing on an inequitable framework itself. It ain't gonna ever work. It's like a funnel that you drop into that your oil. When you put your oil in that little funnel, it's like thinking that there's some other destination that, even though there's a wide circumference up there, like it ain't gonna end up at that little point at the bottom. Like, you fooling yourself if you think structure is already there. It's gonna end up there. Before you even put it in, you know where it's gonna end up because the structure is telling you.
Well,
you know, so
the sad thing about that is, I think as people of color, we've lived that experience, although we may not be able to articulate it. But I think the challenge is sometimes getting white people to understand that, just as what you're describing actually exists. You know, it's a real struggle to get white people to believe that white privilege exists, because
that's true. Like in the disconscious racism, Dr. Joyce King was one of my mentors. She talked about disconscious. And so racism, if you've been in that position of benefiting from it, that's just been your normal. You haven't even really checked what the hell's going on. You can't even fathom that. And it might not even be some kind of egregious or thing that you're doing in a pejorative way. You just, the way you've lived, you just never, you know, you might just be so self-centered just in your flow, not even knowing it, that you just beating up all kind of people, not realizing it. Like
blindly, you don't even know what's going on.
It's because it's insidious, though. It's, you know, it's insidious, and it's just like you said, it's just all that people know. I don't know what we do, you know, to help people understand that white privilege exists, and that this paradigm, you know, this world that is people of color that we live in, that this is a reality, you know, because what happens is, I think sometimes people get roped into comparing oppression. So you'll have people that they want to disassociate themselves away from being an oppressor, and they'll say, well, my family was originally from, Ireland, and you know, when they came here, they weren't enslaved, or they had this issue or that issue, and then it just really becomes about comparing oppression and atrocities, and people just lose the whole message in terms of what it actually is, you know. So
yeah, there's so many standpoints who have a narrative that is not even included in the narrative that's supposed to be the normative narrative, which shows you that other things exist outside of this narrative that's supposed to include everything that paints the picture. If those things exist and it ain't in there, that means that this thing don't account for everything. So, you know, you got the feminist standpoint because of the inequity. You got, you know, the gender thing. So you got, you know, you got the black, white, but all the binaries. Anything that's a binary is always going to be one first past the post.
Episode 22.
HeatMakerz.
HeatMakerz, another Bronx affiliation. The HeatMakerz. You know, this to me, I enjoyed this this interview. Also, I have to say that speaking to him made me really go back and listen to that El Capo album again. Because the first time when I listened to it, you know, I skimmed through it, and I was like, okay, there's some good music on there. But after listening to him, just talking detail, I was like, I need to give this, you know, a listen with more thorough ear. So I went back and listened to it. I was like, man, like this is probably Jim Jones' best work.
Yo, and Jim is putting out a lot of work now.
I know.
Exclusively HeatMakerz production. Like almost doing all the Jim stuff right now. And Jim is out there working. But I've always liked the HeatMakerz. Their choice selection and you know, just the way their beat selection, the way they make beats, is always stand. They signature the Diplomat sound. Like that's the Diplomat sound, HeatMakerz.
Yeah, and he's I liked what he was saying about like the you know, when you sit down with musicians who technically know how to make music, and he was saying that it's much more difficult to make music with them versus people who don't really know and go off the feel. Like I thought that was dope commentary and very observant on his part also. And you know why? Because I was thinking about it, and to me it's applicable to, I always tell people this also, you know, to me, just because a person knows, sometimes a person can know so much that they can't get out of their own way, right? Like if you so boxed in, like, no, this is the absolute way that it needs to be. This is how it's supposed to go. Yeah, you have tunnel vision and it stymies your creativity. But if you don't know, then it's just like everything is a blank canvas. Like, oh, I could just do this or do that or whatever. And it feels good. It sounds good. So to hear him say that with the level of success that he had, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. We on to something here.
Well, you might think I'm lying to you, man. Like it was probably like a good 2 years I was just locked in, just trying to get better.
Trying to learn that stuff.
Like that. And it didn't even feel like that to me because I just wanted to get better so bad that the days didn't feel like weeks and months would pass, and it just felt like one long ass day to me. You know what I mean? Like I can't describe the feeling to you. When you really love something and you want to learn it and you want to figure it out and get better, time isn't really like time is no obstacle to you.
Right.
You kind of just deal with the time. You know what I mean?
Right. Let me ask you this question, because I usually ask artists, because I consider you an artist. I know you're a producer, but creativity comes in there at a great deal. How important to you is imagination?
It's super important. That's why you hear a lot of artists, like before they get out of their natural element, like if they from the hood or wherever they from, their first project or their first bit of work is usually their most defined work, because that's everything bottled up in like all their imagination, all their thoughts, everything they ever wanted to get out of their brain is like that first project. And then after that, it takes the extra creative artist to keep pulling from that same place. But if you notice, you'll see a lot of artists be like, I went back to my old neighborhood to write this album, because they trying to find that imagination, that feel, that creativity, because they think they left it there. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Meanwhile,
right.
it's really inside of you. Like I strongly believe that, like I made records like Dipset Anthem, and I don't think I'll ever be able to make another Dipset Anthem, not because I'm not as good, it's just because where I'm at in my life, my brain is different. I think different. The way I feel about things are different. The way I handle things are different. So my music is gonna reflect that.
Yes,
when I made Dipset Anthem, I was a young kid from the Bronx that was just hungry and excited about making music and a couple of dollars in my pocket, and I wasn't really concerned with success in the music game. I just wanted people to respect me musically. So I was trying to make the hardest beats possible.
Right.
My mind frame is different now. You know what I'm saying? Completely different.
Yeah,
I see that.
Let me ask you, you have a the HeatMakerz have a signature sound, you know, you have a distinct sound. Is that what you were going for when you started out, like to have a signature sound, or is it just something that came about?
Everybody, you know, a lot of people think that like I sat down and it was like a premeditated thing to create a sound. For me, it was never that. It was just I worked with what I had. Like I didn't play the keys. I had a bunch of reggae records laying around the crib because my parents, you know, I'm Jamaican, my parents are Jamaican, so we didn't really have like hip hop and R&B and disco records. We had dub plates. Not dub plate. We had like records. We had like, you know, Barris,
yes,
Bob Marley, Budger, Capleton. You know what I mean? We had records like that around the crib. So for me, I knew I had to sample, but I never used to like to listen to records at regular speed. I used to always listen to records at 45, even before I was making beats, because it had a feel to me and it sounded better. And I started doing that and using the records I had, and before you know it, people just said a sound was created. You know what I mean? And it was just me working with what I had.
Yeah, man, because I think I've heard you say it was a plan, you know, working with Cam and y'all creating that sound. Y'all, even with, what was it, with Old Boy, he came up with some sort of, I forgot what song it was, but y'all collaborated, so I'm going to do this, and you took that. I'm going to do that, and you took that. And all of a sudden you had this Dipset sound. What is named the Dipset sound?
Yeah, because honestly, what it was like before I met Cam, when I met Cam's manager at the time, and I gave him a CD with about 15 tracks on there. 9 of those records ended up on Diplomatic Immunity. So
wow,
the sound that you hear in Diplomatic Immunity is the sound that we had, but rappers didn't know how to attack it until we met Dipset. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because a lot of it, because if you listen to like I'm Ready's not a typical beat where it's like,
classic.
You know, like how they have 4 counts of a beat. It's really like a swing beat. So it takes a rapper to really sit down and figure out a flow to that beat. And a lot of the things that we did. So, you know, we just met the perfect match at the time. And then our combination created that sound. You know, I was saying, our combination is what birthed that sound. You know, Dipset combined with HeatMakerz birthed that sound. I wouldn't put it all on me. I wouldn't put it all on them. I think it was just a perfect combination.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So I made some joints, yo. Y'all made some. And you spoke about how your music, you know, from you wasn't a kid down. Even when I hear My Era and Cocaine Dream, and I'm like, this shit grew up.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck, this shit got some years on it right now. Them songs is hard. It's a different swing to it, son.
You know what it's like, man? I think it's like being a young superhero and you don't really know how to use your powers yet. You know what I mean? Like as I got older, I figured out how to use the powers I had to make shit like El Capo. You know what I mean? Like the younger version of me couldn't have made El Capo. I'd have did too much. The older version of me knows where to stop. Like, all right, cool. This record is
that's enough of this. Yeah.
Right. You understand?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's where I'm at in my life now. I just feel like El Capo was the first project that let me know that like I'm a bona fide producer. Not just a dude that make beats. Like I'm a bona fide producer. Like I made every last record on there. Me and Jim arranged it. Like that album.
Right.
Me and Jim put that album together from top to bottom. Every beat on there I made, every lyric he wrote. You understand? Like, so to me, the fact that we could do that together and have people call it one of the best albums they heard in a long time,
right?
That means something to me. You know what I mean? That means a lot to me, to be honest.
And it came at a time where Jim is ascending as well. You know what I'm saying? You can tell the maturity in his music too. It's like, yo, son, you know what? This shit is hot. Fuck what you say, son. Listen to this shit. You gotta listen to it though.
Yeah.
You can't just take it for granted.
The music pushes you sometimes to become that artist. You know what I mean? Like if people keep giving you the music you accustomed to in like heavy street hardcore without no extra things to it, then you're going to rap about that same type of thing and it's going to feel the same. I think I gave him like a wide array of different sounds on this project so he could really get off and let people know that he really gets busy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about, I guess, like your evolution as a producer, because you just said something that really resonated with me. You were saying that, you know, the older producer would have probably added on so many other things, but now the producer you are, you sort of come to the conclusion that sometimes less is best. What does it take to get there?
I think it takes belief in yourself, man, because I think a lot of producers, they feel as if in their head, there's certain elements that have to be in a beat. Like if I do a beat I need kicks and I need snares. I need hi-hats. You don't really need anything. It's like you're really just searching for a feel. Like when I make music, I'm searching for a feel. When I get that feel, I stop. Like when you listen to El Capo, For the Love of the Hustle has no drums on it. Maybe at a couple parts I put a little drums in there, but 90% of the record is no drums because to me it felt right like that.
Right.
And then on top of that, I'm working on an album, so every record doesn't have to have the same elements in it. You know what I mean? And that's what helps paint the picture of an album. And I learned all that over time, but again, the younger version of me would have put drums all over that record and probably fucked it up.
Yeah, you know who it kind of reminds me of? I think about like some of RZA's production. Like RZA is somebody to me that when I
Really
first heard RZA, I was like, yeah, like yo, wait a minute, these loops ain't not necessarily even on. You know, it just like RZA to me is somebody who just took whatever element he felt and threw it in a record and didn't necessarily feel like, well, mathematically this stuff needs to connect and go together. But it was brilliant and it was genius to it.
Yeah, I think the more you know when it comes to like the science of music, the less you experiment. You know what I mean? Like I've worked with dudes that play keys in the church choir, and then you get them and try to produce a record with them, and they can't do it because they thinking about the science of music and nah, this chord can't come after this chord. Why not? Does it sound good? If it sounds good, do it.
Let it go. Let it fly. That's
right. You understand? Like 90% of the people that listen to music, they don't understand the theory behind music. They just know what sounds good to them.
Yeah.
So if you deliver that feel, nothing else matters to me. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, there's been more records than you know, past and present, where they might not have been in key, might not have been in tune, the timing might have been off a little bit, but that's what made it a great record at the end of the day. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, depending on the record.
Yeah, it's those imperfections that make it perfect.
Yeah, and I can hear like your sound. I put categories and shit. That's just me. I'm just that way. Your sound to me is I mix a sound clash hip hop. Like when you hear it, you're ready to like I'm on the side of a carnival boat and I'm just ready to march, yo. That's how deep it is. And talk about that part.
For me, like I said, I've always said before, I don't care what music sounds like, I care what it feels like. You know what I mean? Because when we think about music from the past that moved us, we don't think about the sound quality. We just know this was my shit.
And then episode 23, this was one I was in particular, like really, really close and near and dear to Rob. You know, we have MicHandz. And MicHandz, I have to say, like, yo, salute to MicHandz. The brother came on and did the interview while he was doing dialysis.
At dialysis.
Yeah.
How about that? That's a champion move right there.
So for him to make that commitment to follow through, because he could have easily said, like, nah, I can't do it. You know, I'm at dialysis. Right. For him to follow through and do it.
And he gave us his full attention. Things going off and on that. Shout out to MicHandz.
Yeah.
This here, quintessential, a soldier, a warrior. This guy doesn't. I don't even know if quit is even in his vocabulary. Because this man is out there, even just going through what he's going through, and he's right back in the, you know what I'm saying, right back in the mix of things, trying to get things done. This interview I enjoyed because him and I do share, you know, the situation, the kidney situation. But in situations like that, it's good to have someone to lean on, to talk to share, you know, what the journey that you're going through during this time. I think I really enjoyed this conversation with Mike.
Yeah, you know what was cool to me? Like, I don't know if you caught in the interview, but it was really, he was paying homage to you, Rob. Because he was saying, like, you know what, like you have the information, you've been where I'm trying to get. And it was more so a discussion where you was telling him like what's to be expected. And shortly after that, he got the transplant. He got a kidney.
Right. Like almost like a couple of weeks after that.
You talk about speaking it into existence.
Hold on. How about that?
Yeah.
And that came about. Nellz was like, yo, you remember him? He used to be at the studio. I was like, nah. He said, no, I think you should reach out to him. Because he's seen a video. I think he was at dialysis and he was talking about the injection of the needle. So I reached out to him, sent him a little note, just on some kidney warrior shit. Look, I know what you're going through. Just take your time, gave him some jewels. And from that on, we created this bond. I said, you know what, this dude, I got to interview this dude. That's how all that took about. So shout out to MicHandz, man.
Yeah, MicHandz is a good brother, man.
Me and Nellz Kitchen still owe you a dinner, brother.
Yeah, he's a good brother. And the other thing that people should know about MicHandz, like that's one part of his story. But if you look at some of the stuff that brother doing in the community, if you go to this page, you look, it's always food donation, toy drives, you name it. Like he's active in the community.
Strictly level because my white blood cells was going past all the progress.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They had to put me through a process where I had to freeze my plasma and my blood or something like that. So they allowed the Prograf to work along with the plasma, and they got it down to a level to where I can accept the Prograf, and my white blood cells would just kind of just fade away and just, you know what I mean? I didn't have to worry about them rejecting the kidney, but it was an ordeal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the kidney lasted for 7 years, and then when it failed, I knew exactly what I was going through. I said, I'm going back to dialysis.
But you already knew the program.
I already knew the program, man.
And see, this is what I don't get. I don't get to build with many people on the other side. Like I've mastered this version.
Right. That's nothing.
That's nothing. Really build with many people after the transplant, you know?
Right.
Because again, like everything else, I've come to know this part is new.
Well, post-transplant is really a process of you. All right, now your lifestyle has changed. You have a foreign object in you, and your whole goal is to not have that object be kicked out, rejected. That's on your browser for the rest of your life. How to not to get rejected. So your diet is going to change. You can kind of resort to some of the way you was living because you're going to have the energy back. You're going to feel the difference of that. But the timing of when you take your medicine, the first thing you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you take your meds, you eat. Whatever regimen that you're on in regards to your medicine, you do not break stride. I don't care where you at, you take your medicine with you. Whatever time of the night, if they tell you 12 hours, if you take it 1 in the morning, you gotta take it 1 in the afternoon. Don't take it at 1:30. Don't take it at 12:30. Take it at 1 when they say.
That's what I do now.
The reason for doing that is that your body, like anything else, needs to build up the attention for dealing with that because your body, your brain is going through a whole different process. Even when you're on dialysis, sometimes that's why you feel lethargic when you come out because your brain is like, what the fuck just happened? I know I got a kidney, but something else is doing the job for the kidney. How was all that working? You know what I'm saying? So on top of taking your meds, you almost have to rethink the way you want your body to work. You have to be in your mind and be like, yo, I can't do that no more. Now I gotta do this. I have to get sleep. I need some rest. You know what I'm saying? There's periods and times where you have to follow strict code of what you're doing. Now after
your lifestyle change.
Yo, after a year, after 2, you walk around with your pill case, you know it, bang. You're hooking in there. And what progression that happen is your nephrologist and your kidney team will watch your progression. They'll watch you eating better. Your health is coming. Your hemoglobins are starting to come back. Those are your red blood cells. So if your red blood cells and your red blood cell count is high, that's a great sign. You know what I'm saying? Because that means your cells' reproduction is back in rhythm the way your body used to be. You know what I'm saying? The only thing is that kidney's a foreign object. And you got them white boys at the door.
Yeah, and that kidney, it never actually settles in. It's always a visitor.
It's always a visitor. It's always a visitor. So let me ask you this, right? You travel a lot. You move around a lot. You know, how does that really affect you, man?
I sleep a lot.
Get a lot of rest?
When I'm on the road, I'm always sleeping, resting, or whatever it is to do. My only focus is the show.
Right. So you save up your energy for the show.
I'm not really seeing the city too much and all that. I'm really trying to reserve my energy for the show.
Okay.
When did you get diagnosed?
2008.
Oh, okay.
I didn't fail to 2018 though.
Okay, wow, that was a while, man. That was a 10-year stretch.
Yeah, they put me on a preventative regimen, so I was, so that's why as I'm listening to you, I feel a little more confident because having to train myself and adhere to a regimen and all that else, I've had so much practice.
Yes, sir.
Thus far, I was able to keep it at bay for 10 years, and I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't as strict on my regimen as I could have been.
Right. And you gotta, humans are creatures of habit and pattern. They're just certain patterns and certain habits that is so succinct, very hard to break. But it's like tying your sneaker, man, brushing your teeth. You've been doing the same routine for so long, and now you have to change. Cold, you got to go cold turkey. That's difficult, man. That's very difficult.
It was, man. And how about this? When I got diagnosed and they first put me on this preventative regimen, I was leaving for Europe for the first time like a month later.
Right.
For 3 weeks.
Wow.
So I had to go and keep myself disciplined away from home.
Right. That's right.
It was hard.
It was hard.
But my people that was out there was on point because, before I came, I let them know what was going on. So they kind of catered to it.
Right. And it's a lifestyle change for them.
Yeah.
Even my buddies now, when we go out, we go to, even if we go to like a concert, I tell them, I said, look, here's my pill case. If you see a nigga getting weak, sit my ass down, get me some water. If it gets to the point where I'm incoherent, I had a chain that had the number and the hotline and the medical number to call and let them know, look, Rob ain't feeling right. They'll tell you what to do. And that's how you got to roll. And if your peoples is with you, they got the first aid kit bag with them, the pill bag, all that, and they'll take care of you, bro. For real, man.
By the grace of God, man, I have yet to have that version. My dad died of this shit, right? So I watched my dad live with this for 10 years, 82 to 92.
Wow. What's the reason? What's the reason though? Is hypertension or diabetes?
Well, hypertension is mine. His was hypertension as well, but I think he had another viral situation that nobody really talking about. But with that said, he was in the military, got discharged in '82 because of it, and brought us back to New York. And I watched him grind with it. But he had a horrible go with it.
Right.
That's not the version I've ever had. By the grace of God, you know what I mean?
For sure.
It's been hard. It's been rough. I had moments, but nothing like what I saw him go through.
Right.
So after you got diagnosed, what was some of the immediate like lifestyle changes that you made?
Dietary mostly.
Sure.
Then I was hold on one second. They cannulate.
That's right.
Part of my patients.
Cannulation is when they sticking them needles in his, and it's either he have a graft or he has a fistula. And it's like a little buttonhole where the needle go right in.
Nah, that's not what my life is, brother. Like I got the fistula, and I don't use the buttonholes. I try not to let them stick me in the same place, so that I don't get the aneurysms.
So it's not a it's not a graft, because I have a graft.
It's a fistula.
I have a graft. It's like a loop.
Yeah.
And they interchange. Right.
Yeah. Mine is a fistula where they took the artery and the vein and they fused them to create a resilient super vein, for lack of better terms.
Yes, sir. So they interchange their cannulation spots every time you go. That's crazy. Yeah, son. That's the lifeline right there, bro.
Yeah, brother.
Episode 25, Jameric Woods. Episode 25 was, I think, Zane's debut on camera.
Yeah, it was.
That was Zane's debut on camera. And I remember after that interview, it was dope talking to Jameric Woods, but I remember after that interview calling Zane up and being like, yo, brother, why are you on TV looking like a mobster? You got on a tank top. Get it together.
Yo, his backdrop and where he become, he's a pure character, man. I love it.
So that was Zane's debut. So that interview is sentimental to me because that's the first time Zane actually appeared on camera with us. And then I have to say, talking to Jamaric Woods was like,
he's a good kid, man.
Huh?
He's a good kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say that may have been like one of the easiest free-flowing interviews that we've ever done. It was just like it was almost like we were interviewing him to see if he wanted to go to No Idea's original podcast prep school, right? He was just like so buttoned up and straight laced.
Yeah, he was clean with it.
Yeah.
We was practice. We was practice for when he really had them interviews out there in the world.
Yeah, but you know what? I like the fact that he gave us some insight into actually the game speed and what it really takes and everything. And I asked him about Jim Harbaugh, if Jim Harbaugh was yeah, and he was open, very good dude. But that's growing up in Alabama, like because Alabama is Alabama
football world right there.
Yeah, like
hey, I was an Auburn fan anyway, so
man. Shout out to the Tigers, man.
Oh yeah. It's just such rich tradition and history with Alabama that I would think that like growing up in Alabama, you'd be like, yo, you know what, my dream is to play football for Alabama. But I would imagine with the program that they have at Alabama and the kind of recruiting that they do, that is probably like it's so competitive, like to actually have the opportunity to get on the field. It's probably much more difficult than other programs.
Oh yeah, most definitely. They recruiting dogs every year. They're not gonna have anybody that they think that can't play. So it's definitely competitive down there.
So talk about how was it the transition from the high school level to the NCAA level, the speed of the game, and what did you have to work on to strengthen your game or improve your game?
I'll say the number one thing was just the mental aspect of it. The game is a lot faster, so one wrong step, you can be out of place in a big play. So as far as athletically, everybody on college level is probably about the same. You still have your freaks out there and everything, but it really comes down to who knows the playbook and who knows what they're doing.
That's right.
When it's time to play. So I feel like that mental aspect was the biggest biggest challenge for me coming in as a freshman.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, back when you played for Michigan, were there any athletes that you was like, damn, I gotta check this dude as far as like wide receivers or running backs that's coming through the hole?
Oh man. My class personally, we probably had the best group of receivers come through there. We had Nico Collins, Reed Black, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then above me too, they had the running back Chris Evans. It was just a lot of weapons over there on the offense, and I'm like, man, like I never had to play these guys before, and I'm had to play them every day in practice. But it actually got me better. We competed, and it was just fun being out there with those guys, and now they're doing their thing, and I'm doing mine, so it was a blessing.
Right.
Yeah. You said something I think is very important that I think a lot of times people don't realize, and not only in football but in any sport, the mental aspect of the game. I think what happens early on in sports is you rely solely on your physical attributes. And there are some people, like you said, that their physical attributes, they're just freakish, that they run faster, they jump higher, they're stronger. But that mental piece, there are people that I've seen that may not necessarily be physically as gifted, but mentally they're stronger. They know the playbook. They know the ins and outs. They know all of these different things. Talk about from your perspective as a player, like how does somebody get to that point? How do you develop to get to the point where mentally you're a better player? Because physically you could go in the weight room and lift as much as as possible.
Right. The number one thing is film study. Film will tell the tale. That eye in the sky don't lie. So you just sitting down in your room watching film, breaking down receiver tendencies, quarterback tendencies, opponents, offensive coordinator tendencies, just looking back over the years, what teams he played for, how they run their system and stuff. All that's going to translate to that Saturday game. And just watching film probably be the biggest part of getting your mental ready. And along with, studying your playbook. Because if you know everybody's job, if somebody's out of place, you can let them know.
You can cover.
You just have to know your job. You got to know everybody else's job. So study your playbook and watch film be the two main factors.
That's what's up. So what is it like playing at a high level?
Oh, man, it's amazing, man.
It's a rush.
Yeah. You out there in front of 100,000 fans.
and you playing against something like NFL talent every week.
That's right. That's right.
You know, it's a blessing to be able to play a game you love at the highest level. And, you know, well, not, you know, college in the NFL, but you play against NFL talent. So,
well, Coach Harbaugh called it the Michigan, what they call it, Michigan's NFL's 33rd team.
They definitely could. It's talent everywhere up there.
Yeah, so Michigan don't play, man.
Yeah.
With that being said, why did you choose Duke? Because you got the talent, you got the coach, you got the experience, you got the resume, you got the history.
Yeah. So the reason I chose Duke, really, you know, Michigan, I was up there for a good 3 years, you know. I played and, you know, I went on trips with them and I got to build a lot of relationships up there in Michigan.
That's right.
After those 3 years, I just felt like it was time for me to do something different, you know, just in my life, period. Not just football, just in my life.